unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxingego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Man, they got him. They got him. When I tell you there was an upset, you must believe me. In the world of boxing, a upset that many people did not see coming. David Morrell Jr. gets upset in a shocking fashion. Most people didn't see it coming. I have my official Ego Thoughts breakdown on the David Morrell loss. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Crazy how things do work. Boxing is a crazy sport, man. Let's start off with that. David Morrell goes to the UK, fights an unknown commodity, and ends up paying for it and getting brutally knocked out, and nobody really seen it coming. First of all, shout out to Chelli, I believe is his name. I'm not even gonna hold you. I ain't even know who Cud was at all. And that is the perfect makings for an upset. You look at the guy's record, 17-3-1. He had 3 losses. He had a draw. He's from the UK, mate. Oh yeah, all of it. Bang, mate. Right? He from like, you're thinking of some domestic level guy. The KO percentage is not that impressive. He has a 52.9% KO. That's half, right? Half percentage, 50%, right? There's nothing on paper sticks out. You got like a little over 20 fights, 21 bouts, 9 knockouts. The man is a substitute teacher, or as they call in the UK, a supply teacher, right? So it's not even your classroom. You the one that people throw paper at because you temporary. So you're not even like damn near a full-time boxer if you're a part-time substitute teacher. For example, do you think that Floyd Mayweather, do you think Manny Pacquiao, I believe he's going to promote me, my substitute, right? You think Pacquiao holds a job, like a secondary job outside of boxing, right? And I'm not trying to roast anybody who has a secondary job, but we know my boy Floyd and Pacquiao, they're not boxing and then working a part-time job at Bed Bath and Beyond. So this had all the makings of a upset. A guy that David Morrell likely overlooked, and so on and so forth. Now, the fight started out pretty regular, right? Fighting in the UK, Morrell was the bigger person on paper. Nothing really stood out. But in the world of boxing, it ain't over until it's over. And although this is an upset, and I didn't see it coming, how could I see it coming when I didn't even know who the opponent was? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of people who are coming out with opinions and whatnot, and they're acting like they knew. Typical boxing fashion. Notice your boy Ego, I keep it so real that I don't front. I'm not going to act like I seen this coming when I didn't even know who the opponent is. But you have all these people like, man, I told you. You didn't tell us nothing, right? Morrell was winning the fight. He had 35 jabs landed to Chelli's 4 jabs. He was outlanding them in power punches and total punches. He was, for all intents and purposes, he was winning the fight. But like I said earlier, it ain't over until it's over. So Morrell at some point ended up getting reckless about the 9th round, I want to say, and he ends up getting hurt with the shot. And the boy Chelli, credit to him, he started to pile it on and really started to swarm and land nasty combinations. And then it got to the point where basically Morrell was on the ropes trying to like dodge, and he just got hit with too many shots. Got knocked out. Again, I think it was the 9th round, he started getting clipped on the ropes. And then round 10 is where Zach pretty much picked up where he left off. Now, my thing is this. If you notice on my channel, I've been a big fan of David Morrell. And I've told people about him, hey, watch for this guy and stuff like that. He's the truth. But really, I blame David Morrell here for what happened. And I'm going to explain. And this might sound pretty blunt, but it is what it is. I blame David Morrell because I've always, if you go, even when I'm like vouching for Morrell and saying, hey, y'all need to watch, I've always told you that the way he fights is very dangerous, right? And I'm talking about when he's fighting Corsares and guys like that. The guy he put in the coma, the Adios, Yerbo dude, stuff like that. I've always noticed in his fights, he sometimes just gets reckless and his defense was leaky, right? And I told you he fights a fun style and aggressive style, but then you got to be conscious of what's coming back. Boxing is not just I throw whatever I want style on you. And the other thing that threw me off about David Morrell in some of his performances, even the ones where he's getting these first round knockouts, second round knockouts, is sometimes he didn't have the fight under control and he was trying to do his Roy Jones or showboat. And for me, that never really made sense. Like, Roy Jones is one of my favorite fighters ever. If you watch my channel, you know that. But Roy was never in danger in them earlier fights when he was like unbeatable, right? And he was showboating. So that's what made it dazzling and marvelous to watch. But there was fights where I was watching and you have David Morrell who was essentially showboating, but he was getting hit and he didn't have control of the fight. So I always knew that could have like easily been an issue. Now, I got to talk about the David Benavidez fight. Now, in looking back, and even then, I told you that could be a big mistake. You had 11 fights and you chose to fight David Benavidez, El Monstro, the Mexican monster, who had 29 fights, instead of developing the traditional way. And you got these guys who are special and talented and come from the amateur circuit, and they don't really give themselves that much time to acclimate. And there's a reason why you should, because the amateurs and the pros are two different games, right? So just like Lomachenko, within a few fights, his second fight or whatever, he's fighting against Salido, he loses. David Benavidez was not a fight that you had to take right then and there. Again, the guy had almost 30 fights and you only had 11 fights, right? So you had never, even in your hot rod fight, your first fight at 175 was pretty tough, right? So you probably shouldn't have fought David Benavidez. And now in hindsight, looking back, you really shouldn't have fought him, because after the Benavidez fight, you have never looked the same. And I know some people are like, hey, how are you giving David Benavidez credit? Here's the thing. What I do know in boxing, when you get knocked out flush, you got caught. It happens. But usually what's worse is absorbing a sustained beating, right? Sustained punishment. And that's what you received in the David Benavidez fight. Cool, you dropped him. You didn't get dropped yourself. But what happens is you fought a style that Benavidez is all too familiar with, which is all-out war, throwing crazy combinations, and he's a hurtful puncher. Look at David Benavidez, right? And what he's doing right now. He's still winning. And he's moved up to cruiserweight and stopped a guy who had never been stopped. So even though Morrell didn't get stopped in the Benavidez fight, he didn't get dropped. You were in there with a guy with 29 fights who is a monster, and you took big punches from him. And what people don't understand is that's a bad combination, because yeah, you went to 12 rounds in over your 11 in only your 11th fight. You lost the fight, so now you got an L on your record, all because you were calling out the Mexican Monster. And the most you can say is like, hey, I dropped him in round 11, right? But you got deducted a point, and then now it doesn't seem worth it because, in my honest opinion, after the David Morrell fight, we never seen the same Morrell. He did not look the same as he was looking on the way up prior to fighting David Benavidez. His very next fight, he fought Imam Katayev, and that was also a stupid fight, right? You're coming off a Benavidez fight in your second fight at 175. You're fighting a Russian who popped dirty before, right? And then you're like, I don't care. I'm still going to fight him. And you get dropped in round 5 by Katayev, and you get put through another war. So to be honest, it's an upset. But if you really lay it out like I have laid it out, it's not really much of an upset. It's poor judgment going from back-to-back wars with guys like, first it was Hot Rod. That was a pretty tough fight for him. Some people are even saying he lost, right? So your first fight at 75, you had a tough fight. Your second fight with Benavidez, you definitely had a tough fight. Now, again, I understand you didn't get knocked down. Sometimes a war, you're not the same. Like, look at Sean Porter, right? Sean Porter versus Errol Spence, he gave it a go. It was a fun, electric fight. I was there. But after that point, Sean Porter fought against Formella and like couldn't stop him. And this was some unknown guy. Then he fights Crawford and gets stopped and had never been stopped before. Sometimes going to 12 rounds with a vicious Errol Spence, with a vicious Wilder. Remember when Bermane Stiverne fought Wilder, right? Yeah, he went 12 rounds, but then he was never the same ever again after the first Wilder fight, right? You seen what happened in the second Wilder fight. I was there also, right? So for me, between David Morrell like showboating when it didn't make sense, fighting a weird schedule, like you literally just moved up to 175 and you're fighting Hot Rod, David Benavidez, a guy who popped dirty and gave you a war, and then you're supposed to fight Caleb Smith, and then he gets injured and they set you up with this Zach Chelli guy or Chelli or whatever, a substitute teacher. So they caught you lacking. You're fighting on his territory. I don't know if they did drug testing. I don't know if they look at the gloves. I try to tell you, anybody in the UK who is fighting, you got to be on your P's and Q's, point blank, period. Take it how you want, right? So you just think you Superman and you can fight Caleb Smith. He pulls out and then they could just line up whoever they want. They are sending people at you, just like Turkey put you in there with Katayev. Coming off of a loss to David Benavidez, you shouldn't be fighting no damn Katayev, right? A guy who popped dirty, is heavy-handed, stocky, and looks like he has an insane battery. And then, to be honest, fighting a Katayev, you don't really gain anything because he was 10-0 and nobody knew anything about him. So what do you really gain? At least if you fought like a Caleb Smith, he's been at their world level with Canelo and Beterbiev. But you're fighting these Zach Chelli, Katayev level people right after a Benavidez war. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? You're switching your trainer. You probably went into the Zach Chelli fight way too confident and looking past him, and you thought it was going to be some easy work, and it ended up being an upset of the year. So Morrell made several mistakes here. Several mistakes. You switch your trainer, no longer with Ronnie Shields, so you're doing that. And again, I don't care who you train with, but you're doing that and you're doing it at a spot where you're taking these tough fights, some with unknown people outside of Benavidez. So do you need the madness of having to find chemistry with a brand new trainer on top of taking loss to David Benavidez, on top of a tough schedule? You see what I'm saying? Like, you're creating more of an issue by even doing that, in my opinion, right? Having to gain chemistry with a brand new trainer. So he made several mistakes. It's really not, it's shocking to some, but it's really not shocking to me. It was trending this way. Again, this is why you don't take these like low level fights, because these other people, right? They know of you and they're trying to make a name off of you. Like imagine LeBron James and I want to play him in basketball. He don't know everything about me. He don't know what I'm capable of, but best believe I've studied LeBron James. So if we play one-on-one, I'm trying to embarrass him, and maybe he didn't do his homework on me because he thought it was going to be some easy work. So for real, that's what I think with this Zach Chelli fight. Morrell went in there crazy confident, thought it was going to be some easy work, thought it was like a UK bum, and he ended up getting upset. And then he was like winning the fight. And I told you, in the fight, he just makes bad judgment calls where he's playing around too much, looking to the corner, trying to hit the MJ and moonwalk. That's cool, but it don't look cool when you do those things in situations like this and it ends like this. Now, Zach Chelli gets put on the map and he does it off the back of you, off the back of your performance, your shortcoming. Is probably to this date or to this point the upset of the year, because no one even knew who the dude was. 3 losses. Nobody really expected this. And now your career's in peril because you have your last 3 fights, you have 2 losses. And that's never a good thing for boxers, right? And then your only victory is a split decision versus Katayev. And in that fight, some people thought you should have lost the fight in a 10-rounder, right? So in some people's mind, you have absolutely lost your last 3 fights, right? Even though the record doesn't show that with Katayev, right? So I think Morrell just poor decisions. Keep in mind, you're a fairly new pro. You don't have that many fights. You don't have that type of experience. And then you're in a new division. So that changes things also. You were this is why I'm saying, and I'm not blaming Benavidez because he can't be held liable for somebody else's chin. But the reason why I think the Benavidez fight affected it, 1, it probably hurt your confidence. 2, you were calling out Benavidez and you took a lot of punishment despite it being a competitive fight. You still absorbed shots that Benavidez, look at what he's doing to Anthony Yard at 175. Stopped him. Look what he did to Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez, a champion at 170 or at 200 pounds, right? At cruiserweight. Look at what he's doing to these guys. And for 12 rounds, you were getting fed them same type of shots from a menacing puncher. And this was all because you, in 11 fights or so, insisted on fighting the Mexican monster. So I definitely believe that your resistance has been impacted. Like, this is just regular boxing stuff. I shouldn't have to spell it out for you. Look at Deontay Wilder. Look at Tyson Fury. You mean to tell me if they didn't fight each other 3 times, their careers would be at the exact same spot where it's at right now? Probably not. And that's the danger when we're talking about boxing. You got to move correctly. I understand people want good fights. People don't want cherry picking. But in due course, you got to take a tough fight, maybe take a loss in that tough fight, and then you regroup. Hey, I got a new trainer. I just came off of a grueling 12 rounds with Benavidez with a brand new trainer, and I took some big shots. Let me actually take some time off. If you look at it, this man Morrell fought Benavidez in 2025. He fought him in February. But then he fought Katayev the same year by the summertime. How dumb is that? How dumb of a plan is that to fight a guy like Benavidez and then months later fight this Russian dude that popped dirty and then go to back-to-back wars? No wonder you're spent by the third fight, which is Zach Chelli, and he knocks you out. You just went 12 and 10 rounds with guys with a lot of power, and that was your second and third fight at 175. Yeah, dig, right? So in a new weight class where you're not, who knows, if you weren't chasing Benavidez, maybe you should have ruled 168 and stayed there and did your numbers there and then waited, because now, like, if you would have waited at 168, you could fight Berlanga, you could fight Hamza Shiraz. There's really good fights. Carlos Adames said he could fight at 168. So you could have fought dangerous and very good fights at 168, but you were so ambitious that you wanted to fight Benavidez that bad. Benavidez being who he is, he was like, I'm not backing down. We could fight. People are saying I'm ducking. All right, bet. And then he gave you a war, and then your body had to take all that punishment for 12 rounds with Benavidez. And then the very next fight, months later, you're fighting a 10-round war with a Russian dude that popped dirty. So I'm not the smartest brother in the world. That's 22 rounds in a matter of months where you went to war. You are aging your career. These fighters are foolish. I try to tell y'all. I try to explain to you. This is why you need a good team. It's not about having the most balls and like listening to boxing Twitter. Boxing Twitter will get you unalived, right? If you just did everything boxing Twitter said. Your body is not meant for blunt force trauma. Your body is not meant to just take sustained punishment. You need to go to a new division and probably acclimate. And if you choose to fight the best in a tough fight in a new division and it turns out to be 12-round war, then you should probably say, hey, you know what? That was a great fight for the fans. Let me fall back, work on some things with my brand new trainer, and then from that point, after you get like a tune-up or some feel-good fights, do a hometown Armory Minneapolis fight, right? Get the crowd going, build your confidence back after the Benavidez loss. This man going from Benavidez to the Russian juice dude to fighting a UK fighter in the UK where I don't trust everything. Let's just say that, right? And it was a old switcheroo. You were supposed to fight Caleb Smith, and they're like, you know what? We'll keep you on the card. But here, these fighters are foolish. I'm trying to tell y'all, bro. How come when Dmitry Bivol was supposed to fight Beterbiev, right? If what I'm saying is a lie, then tell me where the lie is. When Dmitry Bivol he's supposed to fight Beterbiev pulled out with an injury. They gave Bivol a no-hoper, and he knocked him out. Bivol hadn't even really had many knockouts recently, and he knocked that guy out. Look it up. That was these people that you worked with outside of the PBC. They gave you a guy who clearly was capable of beating you because he knocked you out pretty much on your feet, right? And that's who they're giving you. But any of their fighters, right? Any of the fighters that are like their go-to people or these domestic level dudes, when their opponent pulls out, they give them a scrub. They give them somebody who's like easy work with very little chance to pull an upset. But then they give you this school teacher that you're likely going to underestimate, who clearly has what it takes to stop you because he stopped you. You know what I mean? And I could think of more and more examples, right? So these fighters got to be smarter than that. Shakur Stevenson, when old boy Floyd Schofield said he was poisoned or whatever happened, the fight got canceled. Last minute replacement that he fought was an undersized Joshua Padley. And again, Shakur, not known for knockouts, knocked that guy out. But they didn't give David Morrell a Padley when he fought Katayev, right? Coming off a loss to Benavidez. They didn't give David Morrell a Padley in lieu of Caleb Smith pulling out with the injury. They gave you someone hard, and you fell for the mousetrap. They put cheese on the mousetrap. You came right to it. David Morrell fell for the okie doke. Feeling himself. They knew he was confident and ambitious and probably going to be too cocky and arrogant and overlook this Zach Chelli dude. But the thing is, you have what Zach Chelli needed or wanted, and he got that about you, right? So he's studying for you, but you're not studying for him. You're looking probably past it to the Caleb Smith fight and stuff like that. But now you arguably lost 3 times in a row. You definitely lost on paper 2 out of your last 3. So now your career's in shambles. Unpacked. Live streaming can be tough, which is why I use StreamYard. Click the link in the description for StreamYard, which is an awesome tool that enables you to set up your stream with ease of use. Get great results with live streaming. It's what I use. Stream to social media with ease with StreamYard. Live streaming is here to stay. Engage with your audience using StreamYard. Great way to reach out to your audience and connect. So you need a tool that can do that. If you're new to YouTube and you're struggling to get views, one tool I can provide to you is TubeBuddy. I've been on YouTube over 10 years. I use TubeBuddy daily to crank out videos just like this one that you're watching. Learn how the pros do it with TubeBuddy. YouTube receives a lot of traffic, which also means a lot of creators, a lot of people putting out content. So you need to learn the ropes so you know how to separate yourself, especially if you're new, but even if you're a pro, use TubeBuddy. The link is in the description. Get more views, more subscribers, and a higher click-through rate, so ultimately you can realize all of your online goals. Use my affiliate link in the description and grow your channel fast.